Welcome to Todd Talks, a small segment of our Plywood Palace Garage YouTube channel. I'm your host, Todd Touchberry, and today we're stepping back to a time when roads were dirt, speed was measured in courage, and the automobile was still a mechanical marvel. At the heart of it all, the car that put the world on wheels, the Ford Model T. But we won't stop there. We'll also look at other pre-war classics and talk to the people who keep them alive.
So grab your driving goggles, advance the spark, and let's take a ride into the golden age of motoring.
All right, tonight's episode will be slightly different than normal. We're not actually live. We're doing a pre-recorded because Jen and I are out of town. And speaking of Jen, I'll add her to the stage here, and she's my co-host for the night. And tonight we have our friend from Illinois, our Yankee friend, Alex Edwards. Welcome, Alex.
Jen and Todd, how are you? It's great to be with you.
Good. Appreciate you joining us, taking the time to join our little channel here, and I think we'll have a fun afternoon here talking about your stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
So let's jump right on in. We met through our cross country trip. You were a huge supporter of that and helped us out with that a whole lot, and continue to help us out really with everything, and we greatly appreciate that. And it's crazy, the Model T world. You can have friends literally all over the country and across the world, because of this one little silly car. Jim?
Exactly. There's no doubt about it.
So, Alex, how did you first become interested in the Ford Model T? Like before you got a car or anything like that, what piqued your interest in the Ford Model T?
Well, I've always, like you guys, we have a lot in common in so many ways. I've always been very interested in American history, 20th century American history. I would say probably from the Civil War on, I've been very interested in that kind of history. And I just always knew about Henry Ford. I always knew about the Model T. Obviously, I don't know, I didn't know the car or the history like I do today, but I just was fascinated with it. I'm a big car guy. My dad was a car enthusiast. I grew up with some kind of classic cars. And I always say I've been literally obsessed with the Model T Ford for over 30 years. I remember I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, back in about 1995. And a gentleman that I met somehow, I don't recall, had I believe a 25 touring car. And I never seen a Model T before, never in person, never been in one. And I got in the driver's seat, and I was quite a bit heavier back then than I was now. And I could barely fit into the driver's seat. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I better order a fat man steering wheel for myself because this isn't going to work. And I worried for years whether I'd be able to fit in a Model T. That seat must have been up too hot. He must have moved it, or I was too heavy at the time. But good news is today I can fit just fine in a Model T. So, but that's how it got started. And
so you had a little bit of experience with the Model T. Did you drive that one or anything beforehand?
No, I first sat in a Model T in 1995, and I didn't drive one until 2014.
I got you. That seems to be the case with a lot of Model T owners nowadays. Of course, the older guys, whatever, and they've driven them, when they were kids, I guess, But it seems like like Tanner up in North Carolina, I think he's in his 30s, maybe 40s. I can't remember, until our age group, and on into the 60s, we just jump in and buy one and then learn, we put the cart before the horse, I guess you could say.
Exactly. I've enjoyed that video very much of you two in your circular driveway, getting the car going for the first time when you first brought it home, the truck.
That was something else. That was a fun day. I think what helped me learn to drive, and I've said this on a few other episodes, I learned to drive on a Ford tractor where the gas is up here and you got your pedals and everything. Yeah. So I think that really helped me. Learning to drive on that tractor helped me jump into a Model T and learn it in a relatively short period of time. And we'll get back to that part in a little bit. So I'm going to bring this up on stage here. What made you, and this is your first one, am I correct?
That's my first car, 1920 touring car.
What made you decide to take the plunge and go out and buy a Model T, particularly this one?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I asked that myself in retrospect many times. Why particularly this one? I was finally at a point. I was was married, had a young child at the time, and for a lot of people, things like this are out of your budget and out of your financial priorities. And around 2010, I finally was in a situation or a position where I could buy at least something, and I found Model T Hayden in Kansas, I believe it is. I think the gentleman Mark has moved to Florida. But I got a hold of his website, and I figured out that I could buy a Model T for $2,500, and that's what I bought this car for. And
This
it was a
one we're looking at
complete
here?
car. It was configured. Yep, that's exactly what you're looking at. It was a complete car configured as a 1920. And I have to tell you, Todd and Jen, I will never forget the moment when the car hauler brought that car in front of my street and I saw it for the first time. It was something I will never, ever forget, the excitement. And I would go in my garage and look at this hulk of a wreck of a car and go, my God, there's a Model T right there. It was really exciting.
What year was this one?
1920.
All right. So how do we get to this point right here?
Yeah, well, I always say to people when we see this picture, it sure looks like a carriage, doesn't it? When you take the motor and the body out of it. We weren't too far away from wagons and that kind of stuff at that point. I really began in earnest to try and restore the car. And at this point, a friend and I took the body off. And you can see the motor still in it. We were pressure washing it. Looks like I put some sort of a plastic cover and a bungee cord over the head. And we were just trying to get to it and get into it. And I wound up selling that body because I had a lot of other ideas. But that's what I was left with after we took the body off.
So you decided to get rid of that after what? You thought it was too much of a project, or just in over your head a little bit on the restoration part of it, or?
Yeah, like Todd, like so many things in life, you look back and you say, gee, I wish I could have done that differently, or maybe I could have done that after all. I know a lot more about Model Ts now than I did then, and it just seemed like an overwhelming project. I didn't do a lot of engine work at that time. I didn't do anything about body work. I would have had it all done, had to have it done by somebody else. And it just was a financial disaster. I really lost a lot of money on that car. I did sell it to a good friend of mine. So the car is still in the area. He's got a 20 store, but he's got my engine, my frame, and all the front end parts and everything in the rear end. So one day that car's configuration will ride again.
Yeah. So did you have any other classic cars prior to that, or anything that was an older car?
I did. My first antique car was a 1966 Chrysler New Yorker. And if you remember that B-52 song, I've got a Chrysler, it's big as a whale, and it's about to set sail. Remember that in Love Shack? Yeah. That's what that car was. It was a 66. It had a 440 in it, and I bought it on eBay. Very affordable. I paid $1,500 for it. I flew to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and in a leap of faith, I drove that car completely unknown from Green Bay, Wisconsin, back to Sandwich, Illinois, where I live. And it's one of those things in life you'll never forget, because I didn't know if this car was going to make it. I remember the night before I left, I was driving up and down where Lambeau Field is, and the Green Bay Packers, in this antique car. And I also had, on my trip, I had 1966 Michigan license plates on the car. So I'm lucky I didn't get arrested. But
what was your very first car that you bought?
I'm sorry, my very first car, what?
What was the very first car that you bought?
The antique car, you mean?
No, first ever car.
Oh, well, that's a funny story, because that wound up being the second antique car. I inherited from my mom a 1979 Chrysler Cordoba when I was in high school. And hopefully everyone listening, and you guys know that famous Ricardo Montalban the rich Corinthian leather. I can't say it
Oh, yeah.
as sexy as he said it, but it had the rich Corinthian leather. And then flash forward to about 2015, I got rid of the New Yorker to actually buy that Model T. And I bought another Cordoba for my son, who was in high school at the time. And it was the same color and basically the same car as I had in high school. So that was kind of fun.
That's pretty cool. The rich Corinthian leather. All right, let's get back to the video here, and I think we'll bring up your current car next, I believe. Nope, we got this here. This was your plans on that one?
Yeah, I wanted to send you this because this was the idea that I had. I really wanted to do a World War I medical or an ambulance replica or medical truck replica. And basically what I did was I had someone spec out, graphic design an actual car, and then I found that World War I wood body. And I had all kinds of aspirations that I was going to restore my 20 Touring because I sold the body off it. And I was going to build a World War I replica of an ambulance. And I know World War I ended in 1918 and this was a 20, but who's counting, right? It would have looked close enough.
Well,
Nobody would have noticed.
The one at the Marine Museum is actually later modeled in World War I too, at the Military Museum.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
The Marine Museum, yeah, it's actually.
So I don't feel so bad then.
Nah, not if they can do it. They must have stolen your idea. So let's
yeah,
jump
exactly.
to your video here. Now what is this?
Now this is a really neat thing. I had a friend named Janine Worthington. She was an artist, and she took a picture of my, blown out car, the 20 Touring, in my driveway, and she painted this for me, and she put my car in a field there, in a kind of a rustic rural field, and that picture was originally of it in my driveway. And I just thought that was really neat. That's my tribute today to the car. And below that, I have the engine number on a little plaque, and it says 1920 Model T. So that's my tribute to my first attempt at Model T ownership. And I had that hanging in my office at work. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is a big moment for me. This was in June of 2021. I finally was in a place where I could afford a decent Model T. I learned the hard lesson that unless you can do all the work yourself, restoring a Model T is a hell of a lot more expensive than buying one that's restored. So I got smart, wised up, but I considered a price of an education, right? So I bought a 1926 touring car. And this car is interesting because it had been restored by Mason College in McPherson, Kansas. And they run a bachelor's degree program in antique auto restoration. And I found out, and you're going to see a picture in a second, I found out that this particular car was restored at McPherson in the middle 90s, 1995, 1996. There's the picture of the car. Those are the students. One of the guys who's actually very active in the Model T community, he's in that picture as a student, and today he's a professor at McPherson.
Very cool.
So that is really neat. They did a lot of Model Ts, and I got to tell you, they really did it right. Everything is 100% accurate. The paint job is just beautiful. I really think this car has sat for 30 plus years because it still looks really great today for a 30-year-old restoration. But that was kind of neat to see my car back with the teenage boys that restored it.
So when they get done restoring a car, do they open the bidding up to the public, or is it just for sale or whatever to help support the program, or how does that work? Do you know?
I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine, maybe someone donated it or they bought it for nothing and then they did all the work themselves. And then, I'm sure they just sold it off or auctioned it off, or one of the dads or somebody, knew someone, or they bought it themselves. But I'm sure all the cars they restore are sold off, and that money goes to recoup all the expense of restoring it in the first place.
All right, Jen.
I wish we had something kind of locally like that. That's a really great idea. So how long did it take you to learn the controls of the Model T? I know Todd said, he had a little bit of a leg up on learning, because he was familiar with the way a tractor worked. But I'll just tell you that when I got into the Model T the first time, my brain had a hard time navigating the control. It's a different beast. So how long did it take you, from getting in to kind of learn that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Jen. As I mentioned, I drove a Model T, a 1920 center door that my friend John Daly has. For the first time, he let me drive a car. I'm not that brave. I would let Todd and my friend John drive my car all day long, but I don't let too many other people drive my car because I'm very protective of it. The first time I drove it, he was right at my side, and he, told me what to do and how to work the gas and the low and high pedal. And I remember coming to a stop sign, and I remember just how weird it was that I had to hold the pedal in the middle and be in neutral, and then bring it back to idle, and then hit the pedal on the right, and the whole thing. And I was scared, but it was a real thrill. I'd barely been in a Model T, much less driven one. So I always tell the joke that from 2014 to 2021, I drove a Model T 100 times in my mind. I always thought about it, the lever and the timing and all that stuff. But I have to tell you, when this car was delivered to me, my current car, I was scared to death. And I just took it slow, and I was very careful, and I only went around in my neighborhood, and but it's like anything else, Jen. I'm 100% convinced if you really took the time and wanted to do it, you'd be an expert Model T driver in time. I would say they made 15 million of them, so 15 million people learned how to drive them. And it's like anything else in life, you just got to get used to it.
That's so true. And when Todd got in the car, well, he didn't even get in the car. He rode on the running board on the outside of it while I drove the first time. And I was in low gear.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it absolutely terrified me. And he, that was my first driving lesson. He wouldn't even ride in the car with me. He rode on the running board.
we got to get you back in that car, Jen.
I know, it was an easy escape plan. I'm still convinced that he would have jumped off if something had gone wrong.
Right, exactly. He's no dummy, right?
Right.
That's right.
When you're jumping into your modern day, does your brain kind of moment where you're like, okay, the difference between a modern car and the Model T, tell me what that experience is like for you when you have to go back and forth.
Yeah, I guess I just must have muscle memory or brain memory, something like that. I've been, obviously, like most people, I've been driving a regular car since I was 16. I learned to drive a stick on a 78 Trans Am, which was like a truck clutch. So I was used to driving, modern cars. It's almost a little bit harder if I hadn't been in my T. It's still muscle memory. I can get in my T anytime and drive it fine, but I got to think for a second if I haven't been in it for a while. But I can jump into a modern car and drive no problem. But it does remind me how incredibly easy we have it today with the air conditioning and the rubber window seals and the quiet and the DVD player or the GPS, all that stuff. You cannot talk and text driving a Model T. You need both hands and both feet. Matter of fact, they should give teenagers all Model T so they can't text and drive.
Exactly.
Right. Do anything other than drive the car. And, Todd and I have often talked about, it does have cruise control. The Model T has cruise control.
Exactly.
And an apology also to anyone watching or whatever. If we have a break or whatever or a lag, we've had some really bad weather this afternoon and all day today. So our internet's probably just a little bit sporadic here and there. But anyway, back to you, Alex.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I can hear you. Jen breaks up a little bit, but I can hear you just fine. So no problem.
Okay. All right, let's get back to the picture for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Tell us what we're looking at here.
Okay, so 4 months after I got my car was converted to 12 volt, probably when it was restored, and I still had a 6 volt starter, which originally, as many people know, Model Ts were all 6 volt. And I had a guy once tell me that for 25 years he had a 6 volt starter in a 12 volt car and he never had a problem. Well, I guess that 25 years was up for my car because one day I had gone to it was in October. I had gone to a pumpkin patch in my area, and I drove my car up there, And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I heard a just devastatingly catastrophic crash, like you opened up your grandmother's china cabinet and just knocked everything out of it on the floor, including all the silverware. If you can imagine a sound like that. And my car completely locked up, would not turn over. Short story long, it turns out I had to have a buddy of mine with a trailer bring the car home. And we didn't know what was going on until we got into it. And what happened essentially was something in the starter, a piece of the collar or something within the starter broke off after the 6 volts were tired of the 12 volts and flew up into my engine and destroyed my magnet, knocked out most of the magnets, and just completely locked up the car. And this was 4 months after I achieved this dream. And I paid a lot of money for that car too, by the way. But I know that these things happen. There's no warranty. And this is a picture of the weekend in November of 2021 where my friend John Daly, who's on the right, and I've got another great friend named Bill, we took the car out, took the motor out. Thankfully, there was no damage to the engine. Like I said, we did move the magneto, and I did wind up putting those splash oilers in there. So the magneto was toast. So today my car runs off the alternator. That's another modification that we can talk about a little bit. But I also did another interesting thing while the car was out. I put these little, I don't know if you guys have seen these, they look like little long funnels or tubes. And basically that allows the oil in the number 1 cylinder in the bearings, the rod bearings, to get it more oil, because Model Ts are notorious for blowing rod bearings in number 1 cylinder. So I had these little funnels installed where the oil travels through these little funnels and it goes into the number 1 cylinder area. So I was just lucky. There was no damage. We got the car back running again, but the story continues from there that I'll have to tell you about in a second. The car didn't run right for 2 or 3 more years until we got that together. And that's a whole story of itself that I can tell you if you'd like to hear it.
So what other modifications? You said you changed it. So obviously you're a 12 volt starter now.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've got the Wasp. I've got that same starter you've got in your pickup.
Yep. What
yep,
any
I
other
got
modifications?
that. Yeah, so I've got 12 volts. I've got a high compression aluminum head, and I've got an alternator. It's a Mitsubishi alternator, believe it or not. It's the exact perfect size for the Model T. And I think that's it. Other than, like I said, in the engine, I don't have a magneto anymore. I've got the splash oilers in there and those little funnel systems that I was telling you about. And I've got a no bearing fan pulley, so you don't have to grease it. It's like an internal bearing. I got that from Langs.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a little difference there too, I think. So,
and of course, I got turn signals and a stoplight and that kind of stuff. Mirrors.
Same guys here working on the car.
Yep, that's John on the left and Bill. And I was just standing by with my fingers and toes crossed, hoping this thing was going to light again, because I just had no idea what was going on. 4 months after I bought it, it blew up.
Were you have any regret or anything at that point?
Buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
I had faith in these guys. John Daly on the left here has been working on Model Ts since he was 6 years old. He's got a really neat collection. Maybe we'll have him on the show sometime. He's got an EMF and a Roush & Lang electric, and he's got 2 Model Ts and a Model A, and he's a master Model T mechanic. And I met him because I was at Walmart in 2006, and I saw a Model T in the parking lot, and I freaked out. I had to find this guy. And he gave me a ride in the Walmart parking lot. So this has been a long journey for me. And he and I have become really, really good friends. He's my old car buddy. And Bill is a big motorhead. He's a Chevy guy. I won't hold that against him, but he works on a lot of, big blocks and stuff like that. So he's a great mechanic.
And I guess that's before y'all put it back in, right?
Yeah, that's my motor. As you can see, you can actually see the alternator there. Next to the oil, that's the Mitsubishi alternator. In 1926, they put the coil box in the engine. This is one of the so-called improved cars where they lowered it and made some modifications because, as you know, Ford was starting to lose major market share by that time, and they were trying to compete with all the others. And if you look at my car, you can really see the Model A coming in 2 more years.
Yeah, for sure. Jen?
So what do you, when you give people rides, what surprises most people when they ride in it?
Well, I love the credit I get for being able to drive it.
Yeah.
I feel like a rock star. People are just blown away and all compliments and admiration when they see me, doing the levers and the pedals and the whole thing. And so I don't mind that. I finally get to feel like a rock star in life because I can drive a Model T. But I will tell you one thing. And let me tell you a quick story before that, so you understand where I'm coming from. One day I was at a gas station years ago, and a guy had a DeLorean. So I walked over to him, and without even looking at me, he went into his back seat, pulled out an FAQ piece of paper that he had copies of, and literally just handed it to me. Didn't even look at me. And I thought, what a rude guy to do that. If a nice person comes up to you and wants to talk to you about your car, and he did that, and I never forgot that. And this car is almost like a kindness ministry for me. I made a vow from that very day, no matter what kind of an antique car I have. And this car, as you know, attracts people like, I don't care if you're a car person or not. I mean, 2-year-old kids turn around when they hear that noise and they know somehow it's different. I spend all the time people want to spend with that car, taking pictures in the car. I tell them, just don't stomp on the button on the floor, because she'll take off while you're sitting in it. But because I want people to walk away and they go home and say, I met a man with a Model T Ford and I learned about it, and he was a really nice person and I had a great experience. And I want that for anyone who wants to take an interest in that car. They're ambassadors of love. I mean, you guys know this. I've seen all the videos, especially on the cross-country trip. You know the attention and the smiles that these cars bring. And I just want to spread a little bit of that every time I'm out in the car, and I will spend as much time as people want to, taking pictures, whatever they want to do, because I want them to have a good experience.
How often go ahead, Jen.
All right, that's really important to us as well. You know that, but we take our cars to nursing homes. A lot of times we go to different events. There's kids, and we go to lots of car shows, and Todd's always the first one to open up his door, let somebody sit in it. He doesn't care if you're 2 or 95. We had
a 100-year-old lady sit in it one time.
We had a 100-year-old on her birthday take part in it, and
that's funny. I had the same thing happen to me. She didn't sit in it, but she took a picture next to it.
Yep, and we used it for a. I don't guess we can say too much about this one, but we actually used it for the getaway car at a. Jen, you want to talk about that? You know what you want to talking about at the nursing home?
We were invited to participate in at a nursing home, and we were invited to be kind of the getaway car, and so we assisted them into the car, and they took some pictures and just had a good time around it. And when we finished with that, I told Todd, I said, I feel like we need, they didn't really have a whole lot of pictures of their wedding, so we went back and made pictures for them and framed them and took them into their room. So,
oh, that's beautiful. You know what? You two have been such incredible examples for me of the love and kindness that you can spread with these cars. And I just think the world of both of you. And like I said, you've been wonderful examples and inspirations to me. So you're impacting a lot of people, including, people in Sandwich, Illinois, all the way from, Sumter, South Carolina. So
we appreciate those kind words. Let me get back to the part about you driving this particular car. Once you got used to it, got the engine back in it and everything, how often do you take it out nowadays?
I drive it as much as I can. Obviously in the Chicago area, I don't drive it in the winter. I have, if it's dry and there's no salt on the roads and stuff like that. I'll tell you, you sure appreciate your heater in your car when you're driving a touring car in January in Chicago. It is cold, but it must have been a hell of a lot better than a horse. So, because they did it. And I know the touring car, Yeah, yeah. I know the touring car had like flaps you could snap on and everything. I don't have that, but man, it's cold. But I drive it all the time. I drive it probably at least once a week. And I got
What's the
busy with
furthest
different
you've ever driven?
things.
What's the furthest you've ever driven in one day with it?
Well, I'd rather not answer that because that's horribly embarrassing to me talking to the Touchberries. 3,000 miles. I haven't driven my car more than 10 miles at a time.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's more than a lot of people do.
You're going to
Yeah.
throw me off the show after hearing that.
No,
No.
no. Like I said, that's really more than what a lot of people do. And it's a shame. Some people don't drive their cars 10 miles a year, and that's to a parade and back.
Oh, yeah. No, I put several hundred miles a year on the car for sure. I drive it. I really do. I love it. It's so relaxing.
It is. And when the car was new, Alex, like people didn't drive more than 10 miles a day, back when it was a brand new car.
Right. Exactly.
So you're doing good. I mean, if you're
Good. Well, if you guys think so, I'll take that. I'll take that as a win. So
Have you had any other breakdowns besides when the starter decided to leave the party?
well, I didn't. It did certainly left the party. I didn't have any more breakdowns per se, but the car really ran like crap for the next couple of years. And my friend John Daly, we rebuilt the front end because it had the death wobble. So we put kingpins in the front end and everything and got that all going. But the car didn't run right for a very long time. My number one cylinder wasn't firing. And I was changing plugs and all kinds of things. And I had my carburetor rebuilt. And we were just going through the checklist of all these things that could be wrong. And we did a compression test and a leak down test. And we took the timing cover off and checked the alignment of the timing gears lined up correctly. That was all fine. We finally took the head off and the valves were all messed up. And that's one other modification I forgot to mention. My car has adjustable valves because when they restored it, they put adjustable valves in it. And my friend John Daly said if he had known that, he would have gone right for the valves. And some of my valves, the nuts on them were completely off. I had intake valves barely opening, exhaust valves opening way too much. And we locked them all down at 15 1,000ths and put some Loctite on there and a new carb. And I got some new coils. And that car has run like a brand new car, new timer. That car has run like it's new ever since. Very reliable, always starts, never a problem.
Do you ever get out with other Model Ts, or are there any other Model Ts in your town besides John's?
Yeah, there's a couple people that have Model Ts. John and I kind of run around sometimes in our cars together. We're like a bike gang. We drive around in our Model Ts around town. And there aren't too many, including mine. There's maybe 5 in this area. There's a number of Model A's, but very few Model Ts.
So tell us one funny thing that's happened to you while driving.
Well, many times I have forgotten to turn my gas on, and I will stall at about 23 seconds, and I pull out, and everyone's waving, and I'm honking, and then she just shuts down like there's no tomorrow. And my immediate thought is, oh my God, something just happened really bad. And I remember I didn't turn the gas on. So a tip for you guys and everyone else listening, the car runs much better, the Model T Ford, when the gas is on. So that's a little tip for everybody.
Very well.
That I learned the hard way. I'm joking, of course. Everyone knows that but me, apparently. So
we've had some funny things happen to us too. When we first started the cross country trip, we went about 1 or 2 miles and the car completely stopped us, and we thought it was something catastrophic. Go ahead and tell them what it was, Todd.
Yeah, we had done so much work on the car constantly that unhooking the battery and everything, while we're doing whatever, just in case. And we forgot to tighten the battery cable back down, and we got like just over a mile or so into that trip.
I remember that.
Yep. And so anything like that, anything funny like that happened that scares you, that you look back and say, oh, that was my own fault, Yeah,
little things, like I said, it's just, the cars are supposed to be so bulletproof and so durable. I've actually found that I don't go off-roading with it, or you see these crazy movies back then where they go up and down the hills and the suspension twists. I've never done that with my car, but I don't know. It almost seems pretty fragile. I'm probably a little nervous Nelly with it. I need to loosen up a little bit.
If I was over 100 years old, I'd be a little fragile as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another thing for me this year. It's exciting. My car finally is 100 years old. I have the second youngest Model T. It's a 26, 27, as you know, they stopped. So finally, my car hit the 100-year club, and I'm very proud of that. It's really neat to think of that car as 100 years old.
So since you've had that car, have you seen, is anyone else in your area that you knew got into the collector car hobby with the Model T or anything else since you've got your car that you've got to witness and see them experience what you experienced? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know of anyone. I mean, I think I've inspired some people to maybe think about it or get into it. I can tell you the reverse story of that. When I was a kid, I had one of my best friends, Johnny, whom I'm still very close to and still in touch. We grew up together all the way from grade school. His father had a 1930 Model A, and that was the first old Ford that I ever saw and rode in and everything. So that really planted the seed for me. I love the Model A. It's an incredible car. I would love to own a Model A, but the Model T is so revolutionary. To me, it's the most significant and automobile in world history.
Well, that leads into my next question. So let me go ahead and ask that real quick. Why do you think the Model T changed America and the world?
Yeah. Well, as everyone knows, it was the first car that everyday people like ourselves could afford. Prior to the Model T, Ford cars were just toys of the rich, and everyone else had a horse, or they walked, or they had a bicycle, or whatever it was. And as we all know, Henry Ford didn't invent the assembly line, but he really perfected it with building automobiles. And as you know, he really wanted to build a car for the masses, for the everyday person, and just a good old common sense everyday person. And he made them very affordable. And I think because of that, that was the first car that a great majority of people could own. As you guys know, most people at that time never went more than 25 miles away from their house their entire lives. And it allowed you to get out and enjoy your family in a picnic, or get out on the road and go somewhere, and you didn't have to pick up horse poop or feed the horse or anything like that. Just go in this little Tin Lizzie and you go. And I think it brought us into the modern world, and that's what excites me so much. I love all old cars, but there's no car like the Model T Ford.
I'll agree with you on that.
Changed everything.
So this car is obviously very mechanical. What's your favorite thing that mechanical thing about the car? Is it the way you shift gears, the way your parking brake is? You have to use that to get into high gear. Is it the levers, or it has the availability of the hand cart, or what?
Right. All of it, all of the above. My only regret with this car is that I cannot crank it for some reason. The engine is very tight. I don't know if that's because it was restored well and it sat for so long, and maybe it's the high compression head, but I cannot crank this car to save my life. So I have to rely on the starter. But other than that, everything about it, the gas on the steering wheel, how you have to, coordinate low and high. And it's like driving a stick, but you're doing it with your feet and your hand up above. But, the brakes, holding it neutral, the coils. I mean, this car is just fun with a capital F. I mean, it's just fun all day long. Everything about it. I just smile when I hear a Model T start or I see one. They just make me smile.
But are you involved in any Model T clubs or other organizations with Model Ts?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Model T Club, Model T Ford Club of America, and I get the magazine. And I was very proud when Todd won the Ben Award. That was a great moment. I voted for you, Todd, just for the record.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And Jen, I always said that you are just as deserving of that award. It should have said Todd and Jennifer Touchberry, because you guys are a team and you went cross country as a team, and I followed every minute of that. And I was just so inspired by you guys, and the guts you had to do all that was really, really something. Talk about a leap of faith in so many ways.
Well, thank you. As you know, I did most of the restoration myself.
I know it. I've seen you wrenching on that thing. I've seen the videos.
According to Todd's aunt, I've done all of the restoration work.
Good. Okay, good. So the truth finally comes out.
I just sit and supervise, and she does all the wrenching on it.
Right.
My Bava Jane.
What I was also saying is that you guys were so inspirational when you went across the country, and just an incredible trip. I followed every second of it. I was like living vicariously through you for the guts to do that on so many levels, and it really was inspirational, especially obviously in honor of Elizabeth with the hydrocephalus and everything. I learned all about hydrocephalus. I didn't know what it was, and Elizabeth is so incredibly inspiring, and love to meet her one day. And the whole thing just worked. And the fact that you chose a Model T to do it, the car that changed the world, I mean, you just couldn't have put that whole thing together better.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, and again, appreciate the support, because it was definitely a lot of planning and a lot of teamwork, and here locally as well across the country, and even into Canada and England and Australia, even people reached out. But back to your car, when you go out on cruises and such like that, what spare parts do you take with you?
Let me think about that. Well, I always have oil with me. I run straight 30 in there. I know that's a huge controversy in the world today of what oil to put in your car, but I run
that
straight 30.
That is the biggest controversy there is in the Model T.
Yeah, it is. When a poor newcomer asks that question, I kind of just duck and cover, wait for the war to start.
I was guilty of asking that before we picked ours up.
Well, one thing I want to be clear about, and you said this, Todd, you've told me this before. Newcomers, everyone should be kind to each other, and everyone should help each other. And no newcomer that has an interest in these cars should be shamed or have anything negative thrown towards them. Everyone should embrace them and encourage them, and just help them get going. But I run straight 30 in it, and I've got antifreeze. I've got coolant in it, 50-50. Other than that, I just bring some tools, wrenches, screwdrivers, stuff like that. But I don't have any extra parts. I don't have a carburetor or anything like that.
How often do you do maintenance on it, like grease your wheel bearings or change the oil and stuff like that? I know that's kind of a personal preference, unless you're really driving yours like a whole lot, like when we went across country or whatever, not to compare everything to that. But how often do you change your oil?
I change the oil every season. Because that 30 weight gets dirty real fast. It's not very good oil. As you know, today it's only made for pumps and stuff like that. And so I change it every season. Like I said, I probably only put 100 or 200 miles a year on it. So that works out fine. It loves the new oil. We did the wheel bearings and everything when we bought it. When I bought it, and my friend John helped me do all that stuff. And I asked him periodically, do you think it's time? And he said, no, you got a long way to go because you don't drive it that much. Let's see. The rear end, I fill that up, or I check it, I should say. Actually, I've got some sort of a leak where motor oil travels down the drive shaft tube to the rear end, and I open my, the nut on the rear end, and all kinds of oil comes out, and then it levels itself up.
Yep.
So that's like a self-filling rear end.
I would be cautious. Maybe once a year or something, drain it all out, suck it out with a turkey baster or whatever you have to do, and 600. Just because that 30 weight's definitely thinner.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I need to do that soon. I actually bought a couple bottles of the 600 weight. I'll be doing that soon. So,
what do you think is the best part about the antique car community, whether it's a Model T or AE or Dodge Brothers or Buick or a 57 Chevrolet? What do you think is the best part about this community?
What I have found about car people, that for there's always exceptions to every group, but for the most part, 99.8% of the people I've met in the car hobby, regardless of the car, like you said, are just down to earth, common sense, everyday people. not, no snobs, no nose in the air, just everyday people with families, and they help each other. They care about each other. I think they're some of the most generous people in the whole world. And I think particularly Model T people are like that. They're always jumping in to want to help you keep the cars on the road. So I love antique car people, no matter what they have. They're my kind of people. Once in a while you get a snob a little bit, but I would say 99 out of 100 people are just fantastic. The kind of people you want to have a barbecue and have a beer with and just hang out.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one for sure. Have you seen anything change in the hobby since you've been involved in it?
Well, I guess a couple things are no longer available that they used to be. For example, I guess even with Model A's, no one's making gas tanks anymore. So you either have to find a real good one, particularly for my car. My gas tank's in the cowl, which is, you're either sitting on a bomb in a Model T or that's sitting in your lap. So I don't know which is safer, but I know certain parts aren't made anymore. But, another great thing about this hobby is that, you and I could literally, and you're doing it right now, as a matter of fact, you could build a Model T from all the parts houses. You get an original frame and everything else in a block. Everything else you could pretty much buy and put together. I don't have the patience to have a super rare car that I can't get a part for, so it sits for 15 years. It just ruins it for me.
Yeah, that is a good thing about these cars. And I guess the next one beyond that would be the Model A as far as age goes. And then like the 55, 57 Chevrolets, you can just about build those out of a catalog right now. But I think it'll be the same thing in a couple of generations with those cars. Then it'll be the first generation Camaros. As that generation that wants those cars dies out, you have to wait a while before some things are reproduced in hopes, that the next generation comes along and it wants to be a part of that particular era of cars like we are with the T's.
Yeah, and unfortunately, particularly for our cars, they're dying out rapidly. I mean, no one is really alive that would have bought this car new or drove it when it was newer. So we've got, we have a lot of people's 40s, 50s, 60s are in it. We need to stay in it and keep them alive, keep that history going. The biggest thing I want people to know is that car changed the world. It changed everything. As I said, it's the most historically significant car in the history of the world. So we got to keep them going because the original people are either too old to drive or they're dying off. And eventually, like you said, that will happen with the Tri-5, Chevys and the Mustangs and all that. That's way off, but it's going to happen too.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Jen?
That, you just touched on a really big point that we have too, which is when we go to car shows and everything, that's why it's so important for us to also let kids get into it and see it, because it's a driving piece of history, and they're not looking at it in a museum. It's actually drivable, and it's important to keep them out there. So what advice would you give to someone wanting to buy their first T?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say try and buy as good as possible a car, unless you really have a heart for restoring it and getting it going yourself. If you have a heart for that, that's really a labor of love. But if you want to drive the car and have it relatively available to you, try to buy the best T you can that you can afford. The other thing about the T's, as you guys know, they're not really going up in value. Most of them are going down in value because of that very problem we just talked about. So they're more affordable really than ever. Some of the really rare ones are big money, like the brass era and the early 10, 9, 10, 11s. That's big money. But the everyday run-of-the-mill garden variety Model T like I have, they're very affordable. So I would say figure out what you want to do with your T, and then buy the right one for you. Whether you want to restore it from the ground up or drive it and have fun with it, buy the best one you can that's going to meet your needs, because you want to keep interested in it. You want to, keep that flame alive for it.
So if the Model T as a whole, not particularly your car, not particularly my car, but if the Model T, I think we lost Jen again, if the Model T could talk, what do you think it would say?
I can't believe I'm still here. I think that was the first thing it would say. I think about this, so that's a 26 Model T. I think about this. Where was that car in 1947? Where was that car in 1935? Where was that car in 1971? If it could talk, it would tell the story of America, the history of America. I really believe that. But, a lot of people, I've heard a very prominent person once say that there's still 1 million Model Ts on the road. And that is completely false, completely wrong. The modern estimates are there 0.4% between 50,000 and 100,000. 0.4% of the Model Ts produced out of 15 million are still in existence. And that's not counting the drivers that can run and drive. Those are the ones in farm fields and barns. You have to include that. So the number of cars that run like ours and can drive, even cross country, are few and far between. So I just think that car it would talk. It would tell the story of America if it could talk. I wish it did. I'd love to meet the people that went on their first date in that car or bought it new, or, it was somebody's old jalopy because they couldn't afford a regular car. So they bought a Model T in the 1940s for $15, something like that. It's the story of America.
So do you plan on keeping this car, or do you plan on finding another Model T in the future, and a closed car or center door? Or
I would love to have a closed car. I love the Ford door. I would love to have that car. No, I don't think I'll ever sell this car. I'm very sentimental about it, but I would love to have another Model T, a closed car. I'd love to have a Model A. I love the Model A. It's not anywhere the revolutionary car that the Model T was, but I love a Model A. I think they're beautiful. They're baby Lincolns, right? Edsel Ford designed it. They're beautiful. I'd love to own a Model A. But yeah.
Okay, so Alex, why should the younger generation care about these cars?
Well, I think number one, because they're super cool, and just as importantly, they tell the story of America, and they tell the story of good old American horse sense and innovation and common sense and the American spirit. And like you said, Jen, they are running, driving, rolling down the street history. Every time I go in my garage and I see a Model T, I just cannot believe that the car that literally changed the entire world, one of them is sitting here, right here. And we can never lose that. And as people get older, we need younger and younger people to keep these cars running, keep them going, making parts. And I have faith that it's going to continue. I really do.
Well, Alex, we appreciate you joining us tonight and telling us about your journey with your T's, because it's plural.
Right.
You might not want to admit the first one sometimes,
right.
But it's part of the story and part of the journey.
Well, I just want to thank you both so much. You guys have been Model T heroes to me, and I think the world of both of you, and you're big, huge members of our community, and I just thank you for everything you've done and the great positivity you've spread with your cars and the people you are. I greatly appreciate both of you.
Oh, we appreciate that. And again, appreciate all the support you've shown us.
It will continue.
All right. Well, thanks again. And we'll do this again one day. And if you don't see us around here, we'll see you around.
You hear? See, even a Yankee knows that now. I even know how to do that.
All right. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Thanks again.